Okay, good evening. Thank you for the lovely welcome and for your dedication as well. Very meaningful. How apropos that it's in memory of your mother, as you will learn, as we will learn this evening. Can you hear me?
No.
Reflecting mirrors and the season of Geula. Tonight, I forgot to push the button.
Oh.
Just push the button.
A green one.
It should be green. It went off. 1 second. Okay, let's start again. Let's start again. Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for joining me and thank you for the warm welcome. So we are going to be learning this evening about the season of Geula, which we have entered, an exploration of the righteous women who have facilitated redemption. We are, of course, in the month of Adar. Purim is shortly upon us next week. Hayamim asher nachtu behem haYehudim me'ovehem, like the days in which the Jews rested from their enemies. V'hachodesh, and this is the month asher nahapach lahem, the month of Adar change. Miyagon l'simcha, from weariness, from sighing, from pain to joy. Ume'evel l'yom tov, and it changed from mourning to Yom Tov. La'asos osam yamei mishta v'simcha. These are the days of Mishta and Simcha, Umishloach Manos Ishtere Elu Umatanos Le'avionim. And we're in the start in the season of Geula. Why in a year when there are two others, when we have a leap year like this year, is Purim in Adar Sheni and not in Adar Rishon? And the reason is we have a principle of Somchin Geula LeGeula. We want the Geula of Adar and the rescuing from Haman and Achashverosh and his plot to murder us all in one day, to be near the Geula of Pesach. So Chazal say, don't put Purim in the first Adar. You put Purim in the first Adar, then you're going to have a month in between with no Geula. Something Geula the Geula. You want the Geula of Adar to be near the Geula of Pesach, and therefore this is really the season of Geula. It begins in Adar, then finishes, or makes a stop, I should say, in Nisan, but it does not finish there. It actually finishes with Zman Matan Torah Seinu. And I saw a beautiful var just recently brought down by the Kedushas Levi, and the Kedushas Levi says, if you daven Nusach Asfard in Kedusha on Shabbos, one of the things we say is, Hein ga'alti eschem acharis kareshis, behold, I will redeem you acharis, like the end, kareshis, like the beginning. So the Kedushas Levi explains so beautifully, Hein ga'alti eschem, just like the Almighty redeemed us, acharis, at the end of the year, Adar, because the Torah counts the months from Nisan, so if Nisan is month 1, Adar is the final month of the year. Just like I redeemed you at the end of the year, Adar. Kirishis, I will redeem you when? In the beginning of the year, and that is Nisan. So Adar and Nisan go together. There are two times in which we celebrate the concept and the freedom that was granted to us by the Ribono Shel Olam. They are stops on the way to Sivan, which is the next stop in redemption, as Chazal say in Pirkei Avos, which is the first source on your handout. Amar Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi said, "B'chol yom v'yom bas kol yotzeis mehar charek." None of us are on the Madrega. I don't believe that we have ever heard the bas kol that emanates the heavenly voice, that emanates the divine voice that emanates from Har Sinai. And this divine voice, this bas kol proclaims, and it says, "Oy lehem lebrios, woe to creations, me'al b'nei Torah, who bring disgrace upon the Torah. Shekal misheino osek b'Torah nikra nazuf." Anyone who does not osek, who is not involved in a life of Torah, is like a bad person. Shememar, as the pasuk says, nezem zahav ba'av chazir, a golden ring in the nose of a pig. Isha yefa v'saras tam. It is like a woman who is lacking in sense. So it might be very beautiful, a golden nose ring, but you put it in to the nose of a pig. It's like a woman who is lacking in sense, someone who abandons Torah, someone who does not involve himself in Torah, does not know his priorities, does not know where he belongs. Torah says the Gospel every day. So it starts in Adar, moves on to Nisan, moves into Sivan, and we have a whole season of redemption. Of course, Matan Torah is intimately connected to Yetzias Mitzrayim. We count the days. So we have a principle of Somchin Geula the Geula. We have the Geula of Adar, Hein Ga'alti Eschem Acharis Kareshis. We have the Geula of Nisan. We count from Nisan until we stand at Matan Torah. Continues the Mishnah. Call me, okay. Va'omer, v'haluchos masa Elokim heima, v'amichtav michtav Elokim hu charus al-luchos. This is a pasuk that we just had in Parshas Kitisa and Shemos, Perak Lamed Beis, after the Siddur Matan Torah. The luchos were the work of God. The writing was the work of God, engraved upon the tablets. And then I bolded the next words for you. Al tikrei charus. Don't read it engraved. Elachelus. Why should you view the Torah as your ticket to freedom? The Torah is your ticket to freedom. It's your ticket out of the difficulties of this world, out of the shame of this world, out of the nisyonos of this world. That's the ultimate freedom. The truest freedom only comes from he who is involved in a life of Talmud Torah. And therefore, we are in this process of redemption. And in whose merit did the redemption come? And it's so interesting, at every stage of the Geula process, we see that it is in the merit of the righteous, courageous woman. Of course, the main player. In the story of Purim, the whole Megillah is called after her name, our sister in the palace, Queen Esther. And we move on to the Geula of Nisan, and by the Geula of Nisan, the Gemara famously tells us in Masechah Sota, Yud Aleph Amud Beis, we're going to look at the Gemara together. In the merit of the righteous woman, there is such a koach to the righteous woman that she can effect redemption, whether it is in the palace of Shushan Habira or it is in the slave labor fields of Egypt. Further on, in the aftermath of Matan Torah, the sin of Cheda Egel, the woman did not sin once again. They ensured continuity of Knesset Yisrael. It's a different share, but in not giving their jewelry, the Rebbeinu Shalom awarded them with Rosh Chodesh, with renewal. The woman has a very high degree of emunah in the Rebbeinu Shalom, in Knesset Yisrael, and in herself. She has a courage, a belief in her ability. V'schus nashim tzidkanios, but also hadar. Nig'alu Yisrael b'Mitzrayim. And that's in whose merit the redemption comes. Sometimes we doubt our abilities, and that's the angle, pun intended, at which we will look at the mirrors. I'm going to quote from Miriam Peretz, who is a modern-day courageous woman. I am sure you have heard of her. Miriam Peretz is an Israeli woman who is a bastion of faith. If you ever have the opportunity to hear her speak, I highly recommend you should go and hear her speak. Before I read her book, I heard her speak at the Young of Woodmere in November 2014, and I have been quoting from her ever since. Miriam lost 2 sons in battle in the IDF. Her son Uriel fell in 1998 in the north in battle with Hezbollah, and her son Eliraz fell in 2010 in battle with Hamas in the Gaza Strip. She has a book, if you haven't read it, just as a shout out, I highly recommend it. It's called Miriam's Song, the story of Miriam Peretz. I don't work for Gavin Publishing House. I'm just telling you if you want to read the story of a woman with tremendous emunah. Miriam says, I don't make an effort to be a hero. I just make an effort to live. And I see how much my kids worry and hurt. She has 4 Canaan children remaining. I say to myself, stop, they suffered enough. I force myself to stand up out of a powerful will to live. It's strange to me that others view me as inspiring. She travels all over the world lecturing and inspiring. When I am asked to come and strengthen others, I feel like asking, what are you talking about? Touch me. I'm flesh and blood. I am fragile and broken. True, you may not be stronger than anyone else physically, they tell me, but you are strong spiritually. And I say, how can you define a strong spirit? Am I an exceptional woman, says Miriam, because I kept on living? Whether I wanted to or not, we all get up and face a new day. The question is, what do we do with that getting up? What do we do with the new day that we will face? There is a goal in the fact of our very presence in this world. Every human being was created in order to make the world a little bit better than it is now. Every person comes into this world with a mission. The person who says good morning to a stranger in the street, he has done something good. If we look inside of ourselves, and that's the nakuda that I want to touch upon today with the mirrors that played such an integral role in the redemption of Israel. We have to use the mirrors. We have to use our reflection. We have to use the palace of the king. We have to use the royal queen's bedroom to look inside of ourselves. And inside of ourselves we will find, says Miriam, many rays of light. Our job is not to keep these rays of light to ourselves, but to discover and to diffuse them. And that is how we will make the world, says Miriam, a better place. The definition of mission, she says, is beyond me. There's only one mission. That belonged to Moshe, who led the Israelites to the promised land. Hineni, here I am. I am committing my entire soul out of a deep belief in the task I'm given, out of belief in God, and out of belief in my mission. And we need to find, we need to explore our own strengths, and we need to find and we need to explore our own mission. And we need to find and we need to explore our capacity as today's women to bring the Geula. Mordechai says to Esther, Esther 4:13, Vayomer Mordechai lahashiv al Esther, al tedami v'nafshech. What was that mean? What was this?
Don't imagine.
It's okay.
Sorry.
Al tedami v'nafshech limalei beis hamelech mikol haYehudim. Everybody knows the story. He says you have to go to the king. She says, I don't want to go to the king. And he says, do not think, dear Queen Esther, you will escape with your life more than any other Jews. It's your time in the spotlight. The time is right now. Rabbi Norman Lamb writes, Queen Esther, appraised of the nefarious plans of Haman, probably thought them the ranting of a madman. He could not possibly really mean, writes Rabbi Lamb, to do what he proclaimed to do. Nobody really believed that Haman had planned to annihilate each and every Jew. It was only when Mordechai spoke to her in words as cold, strong, and cutting as steel that she came to her senses and averted a very great tragedy. And then Rabbi Lamb says the democracies of the West, similarly, did not believe what Hitler meant to do, what he announced he would do in his Mein Kampf. They did not believe it, and they were silent. And as a result of their silence, Rabbi Lamb writes, in total 18 million people were killed, and of course 6 million Jews. And that is the testimony to silence. Do not think that you will escape with your life more than any other Jew. The time to speak up is now. Tadami is silence. Dumiyah is to be quiet. Why did we not react violently, he writes, to these plans of destruction as introduced by Hitler? The Jews, because of our innate character, simply never believed the reports. We could not believe such a thing was possible. We could not believe there was a man who had wanted lahashmid la'arug la'abayis kol haYehudim. B'yom echad, minarva ad zakein taf v'nashim. Is such a thing possible? And does anyone have the courage and the power to stand up? And Queen Esther says, how can I go to the king? We know what Achashverosh does to queens who do not listen. Off with their head. It could not possibly be true. And so they were silent. And Mordechai warns her, Al tadami b'nafshech, do not be silent at this very time. So Esther, Vatomer Esther lahashiv al Mordechai. Lech knos es kol haYehudim hanimtzaim b'Shushan. Esther finds her courage. She finds the rays of light within herself. And she will not hold them within, but she will diffuse them, to paraphrase Miriam. Lech knos es kol haYehudim hanimtzaim b'Shushan. Go find all the Jews who can be found in Shushan. V'tzumu alai. Fast from me. V'al tochu v'al tishtu shloshes yamim. Do not eat and do not drink for 3 days. Laila v'yom. Gamani v'narosai atzum came. Uv'chein avo melech. We will all fast together. The destiny of one Jew is the destiny of every Jew. And so I will come to the king against the law. Asher lo kedas, kasher avadati avadati. If my destiny is to perish, then I will perish. But at least I have tried. At least I have spoken up. At least I have found my courage. Rav Soloveitchik so beautifully. Apparently, there's a dual aspect in the choice of Esther as queen, says the Rav. There was love. Achashverosh loved her. He tried a lot of women. He was an interesting king, this guy. It wasn't just a beauty pageant. It was more. They spent the night with the king. They spent 12 months in perfumes and oils. They must have stank when they came in, but he liked them. And they spent the night with the king, and if he liked them, he called for them again. V'nikra b'shem. Oy v'voy, who does he love more than any other maiden? Esther. So Rav Soloveitchik says there was a dual aspect in the choice of Esther as queen. There was love, plain, mundane, carnal love, which represented Esther's looks, her physical beauty. Was there anything more to Esther? Was there something else? Was it just that he was captivated by her looks? By the night he spent with her? Was that all it was? She was more wonderful than all of the girls, all of the schools in 127 provinces? No, says Rav Soloveitchik. Achashverosh was fascinated by something mysterious. He himself could not grasp. What fascinated him about Esther? Her inner strength. We must look inside of ourselves, says Miriam, and we have to find our own rays of light, because everyone comes here with a mission. Umi yodeh im la'eh kazod higat l'malchut. This entire ploy, this entire setup, your entire being chosen as queen is the very moment your whole life has been preparing you for. Achashverosh was captivated by something else, something he could not put his finger on, says the Rav. Inner strength. Esther's charm. He felt instinctively. He felt intuitively. This is not an ordinary woman. This is not a regular person. When he was in her presence, he felt his whole being was more exalted, was more elevated, was advanced to greater heights. Rashi tells us on the Megillah, Perek Aleph, Pasuk Aleph, Vayi b'mei Achashverosh, Hu Achashverosh, HaMolech, Mehodu, V'Akush, Erev Esrim, Mei Medina. Why does it say Vayi b'mei Achashverosh, Hu Achashverosh? Obviously it's b'mei Achashverosh, and he's Achashverosh. Well, in Pasuk is that? What are you telling me? So Rashi says, quoting the Gemara, Hu b'risho, mitchilaso v'ad sofo. Don't think Achashverosh was such a good guy. The way the Megillah is written, we mask that he's really a bad guy also, but he's in cahoots with Haman. Who gives the ring? Who gives the signet? Achashverosh gives permission. Who sits down with Haman to have a drink? At the 1C conference, after they came up with the final solution, the top brass and the SS drank cognac. Achashverosh was not such a good guy. And he certainly had a way of choosing women. What captivated him about Esther? What is it about the Jewish woman? This mysterious persona, this fragile yet brave being that so captivated Achashverosh. The Rav says yes, he loved her. There was something physical about her that he enjoyed, but it was something much deeper. She had an inner strength, she had an inner charm, and he felt instinctively, he felt intuitively, says Rav Soloveitchik, this is not an ordinary person. What did the Almighty say to Moshe? I will take spirit from you and put it upon them. In your presence, people will feel different. In your presence, their minds will become brighter. You will raise them out of the depths of vulgarity, out of the depths of egocentricity. A person with chain, a person with charm, a person who captivates, makes others soar to dizzying heights. The mere presence, says Rav Soloveitchik, of a great person can accomplish this. And that is what Achashverosh felt in the presence of Esther Hamalka. However, he was not so in tune with his feelings. He ignored this element. He chose her for her plain beauty, the same way he looked at Vashti. And yet, something in her intrigued him. He wanted to find out who she is, where she is from, and why she is so special. Tama kitov sachro lo yichba b'layel neiva. Shlomo Melech says at the end of Mishlei, Perek Amid Aleph, it's a pasuk from the Eishes Chayil. Tama kitov sachro lo yichba b'layel neiva. She tastes that her merchandise is good and her candle does not go out at night. What does it mean her candle does not go out at night? So I read this, brought down by Rabbi Pesach Cohen of Soloveitchik, also discusses it elsewhere. that in the quiet times, the men lead. In the quiet times, Sarah's in the tent, in the background, in the shadows, and in the turbulent times, in the times of national emergency, the Jewish woman steps to the forefront. The Jewish woman is the main character. Atikach Miriam Hanaviyah Atus Arnes Atov Biyada. Atetzena Kalanashim Acharei Betupim Umcholos. Where did they have tambourines from? Talking about the season of Geulah. It was just Kriyas Yamsuf. They just got away with their life. They're dancing. You have tambourines. You know, could you imagine the panic of Egypt of Shemos Perak Tezvav Psukim Chav Chav Aleph? Could you imagine the panic of Yitzias Mitzrayim? Bring the matzah, don't forget the babies, bring the jewelry from the neighbors. What else do you have to bring? Your staff is in your hand, your shoes are on your feet. Run, and Pharaoh saying everyone leave, and somebody says, oh, don't forget the tambourines. That was the most important thing you had to take out of Egypt. So Rashi says, who remembers what Rashi says? That someone said it? I can't know. They had a moon out that they were going to have something to sing with. Very nice. So Rashi says they were tzidkanos. They were righteous women. And they believed that Hashem, Shakadosh Baruch Hu, Yaseh Lam Nisim, their Baal Shem would do miracles. V'altziu tupim in Mitzrayim. And they took tambourines out of Egypt. Does Esther know she's going to be saved? We know the end of the story. I'm not afraid. Are you afraid when you read Michal? Is anyone here ever at the edge of their seat saying, oh, what's going to happen? Maybe her head will be cut off like Vashti. You all know the end of the story. It's anticlimactic. Put yourself in her position. She doesn't know the end of the story.
Where did they get tambourines from?
What?
Where did they get tambourines from? They were slaves.
Where did they get?
Yeah,
tambourines from?
They were slaves. I mean, like, when you think about it, like.
Where did they get what from?
Tambourines.
Tambourines?
In Egypt.
Maybe they took it from the Egyptians.
Maybe, yeah.
By Yinatzos Mitzrayim, they took everything else from the Egyptians. They took the silver. There was reparations. Hashem commanded them to take reparations. In our day and age, we would call it from the Egyptians. They took gold. We read it from the Bris Bein Absar and Perak Tesvav of Bereshis. We read it at the Pesach Haggadah. ידוע תדע כי גר יזרעך בארץ כנען ועבד אבינו עשרים 400 שנה ואחרי כן יצר ברכוש גדול. So upon Pasuk Shah, we were slaves for 116 years, in Egypt for 210, so we never got a day of payment. We were thrown into the river, so then we got reparations. So God said, when you leave, please go ask each woman from the neighbors. So maybe that was one of the things they took. Vatomer Esther Lashiva Mordechai, on your handout, Leich Knosses Kol HaYehudim HaNimtzaim B'Shushan V'Tzumu Alai Al Tochu V'Al Tishtu Shloshes Yamim V'Yom V'Yom. Look what Rav Soloveitchik says, and then we're going to move on to the Gemara. Rav Soloveitchik says Providence selected as divine agent not only Mordechai but Esther as well. God willed that both male and female appear as actors on the historical stage. Judaism has never discriminated against the woman. From the days of Sarah, the woman was on par with man as the history maker. We know, Sefer Bereshis, Perek Yud Beis, Pasuk Hey, they read with Lot, and they read with Sarah, Ves Rechush Asher Rachashu, Ves Kol Rechush Asher Rachashu, and they took all the possessions that they amassed. And Rashi says, what did they take? Ves HaNefesh Asher Asu B'Charan. So Rashi says they read with Lot, Avram and Sarah, and they left their custom, and they left Charan, and they're journeying to the new land. So they take Lot, and they take all their possessions, and they take the souls that they made in Charan. So Rashi famously says, Perek Yud Beis, Pasuk Hey, what does Rashi say? Avram Megayer es ha'anashim, v'Sarah Megayer es ha'anashim. She was a partner with Avram. She wasn't second fiddle. She was a main player. She was in the spotlight. And Esther was not second fiddle. If anything, she's the star of the show. From the days of Sarah, the Jewish woman was on par with man as history maker. Over and over, you have Aaron and Moshe, and you have Miriam. You have Avram, and you have Sarah. You have Amram, the Gadol Dar, says the Gemara, and you have Yocheved. You have Mordechai, you have Esther. Both Mordechai and Esther were created in the image of God. Both were endowed, I'm reading from your handout on page 1, with dignity, with majesty. Both, man and woman, possessed great talent. Both were charismatic persona. Both were called to service. Both were called to make history. To find the ray of light and to diffuse it outward. God assigned equally important roles to Mordechai and Esther because both were metaphysically and spiritually worthy of the task. And therefore, it's not an accident that in this season of Geulah, there is such a focus on the power, on the kochos, on the amunah of the Jewish woman, from the palace of Shushan to the tambourines that they took, to what we're now going to explore in the Gemara in Maseches Sota. What does it mean? B'schus nashim tzidkanios ba'oso adar nigalu Yisrael Mitzrayim. There is something very great in the Jewish woman indeed. There's something intriguing. There is something mysterious. There is something charismatic, powerful, hopeful. Even a Rasha like Achashverosh wants to know more about this woman. Vati Esther noses chen be'enei kol ro'eha. Let us look at this beautiful piece of Gemara together. Towards the bottom of page 1, Maseches Sota Yod Aleph Amud Beis. Darash Rabbi Avira, B'schus and B'schar, Nashim Tzidkani Yoshahayu Ba'oso, Adar Nigali Yisrael Mitzrayim. Why did the Jews get out of Egypt? What merit did we have? Go back to Amram. He divorced his wife. The Gemara says, Amram said, L'shav anu amelim, we're working for nothing. And when Amram divorced his wife, everybody else divorced their wives. If the Gadol Dar does something, everyone's going to do something. There will be no Jewish children born. It was a dark and pitiless time. It was a time of Hester Panim. It was a time of Kol Bena Yilada Yar Tashlichu. It was a time of Isam al Havnayim im Benhu Vamitim Oto. The minute the baby emerges from between the legs of the mother, crack his neck. We're going to bring children into this world. The man lost hope. How did we keep going? How did Knesset Yisrael continue? B'schar nashim tzidkani yoshayu ba'oso adar negal Yisrael Mitzrayim. Let's look at this together. B'shah shahochos l'shov mayim. And the Jewish woman would go to draw water. HaKadosh Baruch Hu mizamein lahem dagim ktanim b'kadehem. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu would prepare for them in the wells of water. It wasn't just wells of water. There were small fish. And those small fish would go into the pitcher. So they had pitchers, they had mirrors, they had tambourines, they had some possessions. It was a time of infanticide, and it was a time of Hester Panim, but they did have some possessions. Mizamein lehem dagim ktanim b'kadem, so the Almighty would prepare for them small fish in their pitchers. V'sho avos, and when they drew up the pitcher, they found mechatza mayim u'mechatza dagim. What was in the pitcher? Half fish, half water. Uvaos, and they would come, and what would they do with this pitcher of water and fish? Visho fitos shtei kaderos. They would place two pots on the fire. Achasha chamin, what's chamin? Hot water. V'achashal dagim. They would bring these fish home, and Hashem prepared the fish for them miraculously in the well, and they would draw it up, and they would have fish, and they would have water. Umolichos eitzel ba'aleihem l'sadeh. What would they do with these pots? They heated fish, they cooked some fish, they heated some water. We have to remember it was a time of oppression, of a time of avodas parach, a time, because I'll say, when the men did the women's work, the women had to do the men's work. It was such a demeaning time. Umalichos esa ba'aleihem l'sadeh. They would go out to their husbands in the field. Umarachitzos osan. They would wash their husbands. V'sachot otan. They would anoint them. Uma'achilot otan. Umashkot otan. V'nizkako lahen bein shafetayim. They would feed them. They would anoint them. They would give them to drink. They would have relations there between the borders of the fields. There was a courage. There is a tenacity of spirit. There is a hope for a better future. One unknown diarist commented upon seeing two pregnant women in the Warsaw Ghetto. In these dark and pitiless times, Jewish women can still bring new children into the world, then at least symbolically, this is great daring and this is great courage. These women would go and they would take pots of water and they would take pots of fish and they would give their husbands to drink and they would give their husbands to eat and they would anoint them, they would have relations. They were expecting, they became pregnant, they would go home. And the time came for them to give birth. They went out to where to give birth. It had to be in secret. It couldn't be in their house. They went to some hidden place in the field, under the apple tree. Under the apple tree I aroused you. Famous pasuk from Shir Hashirim. So they would go, and they would have these children. And imagine the courage and daring it took. We should never have to imagine. We should never imagine. We should never know the courage and the daring it took to birth children in this time, knowing that if the Egyptians even heard the baby crying, it was into the river. V'hakadosh Baruch Hu, and as a result and a reward for their labor, Hakadosh Baruch Hu sholech mishmei maram, the Almighty sent from heaven, mi shemenakir u'mishaper osam. He sent heavenly angels to straighten out, to beautify, to clean the baby. Just like a midwife who beautifies the child. Shifra and Pua Shifra, because she was Mishaperet et Havalad. So the Rebbeinu Shalom sent angels to clean, to beautify the child. Like the pasuk says in Yechezkel, I'm on page 2 of your handout. Like the pasuk says in Yechezkel, and in regard to your birth, on the day you were born, lo karat sharech, there was no one to cut your umbilical cord. U'b'mayim lo ruchatz, there was no one to wash you. Lemishi, to clean you. Who cleaned them? There was nobody there in the fields with the mothers. The Rebbeinu Shalom awarded them. U'milakei lahen shnei evolim. The angels brought to them 2 round loaves. So the commentators explain it was 2 stones. The angels brought 2 stones to the baby, miraculous. Echad shel shaman, ve'echad shel davash. The baby suckled from these stones. It was a time of miracles. They suckled from the stones oil, and they suckled honey. Shenemer vayinekeu dvash misala v'shemen. They suckled from the rock sustenance and nutrients. It was a time of Malam and Teva. But what does this Gemara teach you? That when we go out of our comfort zone, when we go to Malam and Teva, when we go beyond what we think is possible, so the Almighty rewards us in kind with Malam and Teva. Angels appeared to take care of these babies. The Kevan Shemakirim Behan Mitzrim. So what happened? The Mitzrim realized that these women are having babies. And didn't Pharaoh say no one's allowed to have any males and every male into the river? And these women are somehow procreating. How are they procreating? Because they took pots, and they took hot water, and they took food, and they refused to bath. They came in Shemakirim Mitzrim Ba'im Lahargan. What happened? The Mitzrim came, and they wanted to kill the babies. They wanted to kill the women, they wanted to kill the babies like Haman. V'nasa lahem nes, a miracle was done. V'nivla'in bekarka. What does that mean? Nivla'in bekarka? They were swallowed up. The babies were swallowed up in the ground. Miraculously, it's very, very miraculous. It's not, we are maminim b'nei maminim. Every word of Chazal is true. There was a miracle. The babies were swallowed up in the ground. U'mave'in shivarim v'charshin al gaban. What does that mean? What's a shar? An ox. So the Egyptians would come and they tried to investigate. Didn't we just hear a baby here? Didn't we just see a baby here? Where's the baby? Where's the baby? In the karka, in the ground. So they brought oxen and they plowed over the field. Shenemar al gabi charshu charshim. Over my back they plowed. After the Egyptians left, the babies would spring out like grass of the field. As the pasuk says in Yechezkel, we say this pasuk in the Haggadah, I have made you so numerous like the grass of the field. Imagine if Esther had given up on her tafkid and said, I can't go. Imagine if the Jewish women in Mitzrayim gave up like the men and said, we can't do it. Imagine if the Tzidkanias by the Egel Hazav gave their jewelry along with the men. Imagine if Miriam Peretz chose to stay in bed with the covers over her head, or worse, giving in to her pain instead of choosing to live each day anew. The babies miraculously survived by the faith of their mothers, the tenacity of their mothers, and divine intervention. And they would grow up, and they came home in flocks, in flocks. So now you have groups of Jewish children, and the Egyptians can't figure out what's going on. The more they afflicted us, the more we grew. Vatirbi, vatigdali, we say this pasuk in the Haggadah, vatavoi ba'adei adayim. We became many and we grew and we came as ornaments. And the Gemara says, Al tukri ba'adai adayim. Don't read it as ornaments. Ala ba'adrei adarim. We came as flocks. There were so many children that we came as flocks. And this is how we were saved. And this is how the Gemara, and I'm sure you have all heard the famous Mamar Chazal, B'schus Nashim Tzidkanios, B'sar Nashim Tzidkanios, Ba'oso Adar, Nigali Yisrael Mitzrayim. And look what the Gemara has to say about the women. It was miraculous. Because we went out of our comfort zone, the Rebbe Shalom helped us, the Malam and the Teva. Because Esther went out of her comfort zone. Clearly she doesn't want to go. Everybody knows that if you go to the king, if you're not called, it's off with your head. Look what he did to the first wife who didn't listen to the rules. She has no choice. But she embraces her task. And these women, in a sense, had no choice, but they embraced their task. And we have to ask ourselves where we fit into this picture. Life is not easy individually, and life is not easy nationally. And we have to ask ourselves, when we look at our own selves, do we have the courage to persevere? Do we see those sparks of light within? Do we understand lo yichba b'layla neila? Yes.
I just want this, the reason that the women had to go out in the fields and have relations in the fields is because they weren't really allowed to live with their husbands. Is that the lachatz that talks about in Haggadah? That they couldn't have relations in the house? Is that why they had to go out? I mean, it's not lack of tznius a little bit, but I guess they had no choice. But why couldn't they have relations with their husband in the house? They weren't living together? Yeah, I'm saying.
One of the things that the Kliyakar, when the Kliyakar explains how every midah is, how every makkah is midah keneged midah, so the Kliyakar explains that by boils, we know that the Egyptians, one of the things that boils did, it prevented them from having relations, midah keneged midah. They separated the Jewish man from the Jewish woman, and therefore midah keneged midah, they are separated from their wives. So perhaps that's sort of what you're touching upon. But are you asking about the tznius issue here?
Well, not even so much, because I guess it was survival. But no, my question.
Right, that's what I was going to say. It was the time
why they had to do it in the field as opposed to where they were not living.
That's also where they found their husbands, which we'll see in Rashi. Rashi's a little bit different than the Gemara. Rashi elaborates as well. So since you, okay, so let's keep going. We just finished the parashiyos that deal with Mishkan in the end of Sefer Shemos. Everything that I teach is very Torah-based. The answers to everything are in Torah. It's the beginning and the end of all. And we just finished the parashiyos that deal with Melachos HaMishkan. And we're now opening the book of Vayikra this coming Shabbos. And we will learn the halachos of Karbanos and what happens in the Mishkan that we just built. The last 5 parashas of the book of Shemos, we built the Mishkan. And one of the kelim in the Mishkan, on page 2 of your handout, we just finished the Gemara Masechah Sota. Shemos, it says Shemos 30, which is Shemos Perak Lamed. Hashem spoke to Moshe saying, Vasisa ki ar nechoshes, v'kamer nechoshes. So there was one kli in the Mishkan that stood in the Chatzer. It was made of copper, and it was a kiyar. A kiyar is translated as a laver or a reservoir for water, and from this reservoir, this basin, the Kohanim washed. V'nasata also bein moed to bein mizbeach v'nasata shama mayim. It is to hold water. V'rachatzu aron uvanu mimenu es yedeim v'esron bleihem. And before the Kohanim came to serve in the Mishkan, a Kohen who did not wash with water from the kiyar was actually chayav misa. He had to wash his hands and feet with water from the kiyar. When they come to the moed, they should wash with water. V'lo yamusu. Or when they come to the mizbeach, the sharis, to bring the isha for Hashem, they have to wash their hands and feet. I'm still in Shemos Perak Lamed, so they will not die. So it's very famous, and I'm sure that you've heard it, whether you learned it with me in Parsha class or heard it elsewhere, that the nechoshes of the kiyar was made from the mirrors of the women. And I was preparing for this shiur, specifically thinking of all the women that play a role in the season of Geula. I was thinking, is there another aspect to the fact that it was made of mirrors beyond what we typically think? I thought that maybe there's a lesson. Rav Shamshir Falchursh says the mirrors were not melted down. It was clearly recognizable that they were the mirrors of the women. So in other words, all the other materials donated for the Mishkan, the gold, the silver, the copper, it was melted down. And then it was used for other purposes. The gold to cover the beams of the Mishkan, to plate the Mizbeach, the gold the Mizbeach, the silver to make the sockets. When it came to the Kiyar, says Rav Shamshir Falchursh, the Kiyar was made of mirrors. It was recognizable that they were the mirrors of the women. So you could go to the Chatzer of the Mishkan and you could say, that's my mirror. I see my mirror. Now the Gemara did not actually talk about the mirrors yet. We're going to go to Rashi to talk about the actual mirrors. But what was the purpose of seeing the mirrors? Talking about Natsni. So everyone need to know that this is a mirror. Seriously, you use this to put on makeup? That's going into the Mishkan. And I was thinking, Davka, through the lens of preparing this year, that maybe there's a very deep meaning to these mirrors. Maybe it's not for other people to see the mirrors, but it's for us to see our very own reflection. And sometimes we look in the mirror, maybe not you, me, and you think, I'm not good enough, I'm not courageous enough. You're faced with an isayah that you think I cannot possibly overcome. It's too difficult. Everybody knows if you go to the king when you're not called, because he has not extended the Sharvit Hazav, it's off with your head. Look in your mirror. You're in a palace. Maybe you have a whole wall of mirrors. I was in the mansions in Newport, Rhode Island this past summer. It's mind-blowing, literally mind-blowing. Look in the mirror. Queen Esther. Umi odeh im la'ed kazod higat l'malchut. Your whole mission is preparing you. Your whole life is for this very time. It was easy for those Nashim Tzidkanios to draw water, to cook fish, to go to the fields, maybe go out of their tznius zone. Was it easy? I imagine it was not. And maybe the mirrors were meant to be a reflection for ourselves. Not for the Kohanim, and not for other people, but to remember what the power, the courage, and the emunah that exists within each and every one of us. Look what Rashi has to say, and you might know this Rashi. You may have seen it before, either with me in class or on your own. It's a very, very beautiful Rashi. It's the last source that you have on page 3. I'm skipping a little bit ahead. Do we see a woman of grace, of charm, of royalty? Vayav hamelech es Esther mikol hanashim, vatisafein bechesed lefanu mikol psulos. Vayasem keser malchus barosho vayimechet tachas Vashti. Sometimes the world sees a queen, and I see a maidservant. Do I see? Do I recognize? Do I appreciate? Do I value my very own self? Look in the mirror. Look what a Bas Yisrael can accomplish. Even Esther had doubts. Keli, lama zavtani v'chok mishu asi. Divrei shagasi, the Gemara tells us on her way to the king, she recited Kapitel Chav Beis of Tehillim, chapter 22. And in chapter 22 of Tehillim, Kapitel Chav Beis, she expresses her bewilderment, her fear. My God, where are you? You're so far from me. Others see a queen, and she's not so sure. Let's see what Rashi has to say. B'maras Tzavos. What a Rashi. It complements the Gemara Masechah Sota that we just saw, but it gives different details. B'nos Yisrael hayubi adan mar'ot. Please follow with me. Shera'ot bahen keshehem miskashto. The Jewish women had in there, and so they had tambourines, and they had pots, and they had a place to make a fire, and they also had mirrors. What did they use these mirrors for? When they decorated themselves, when they got dressed, before they left the house, they wanted to look nice. Va'af oson lo ikvu milahavi l'nidvas hamishkan. We already said that the kiyar in the Mishkan was made from the copper of the women's mirrors, and they did not hold back from bringing these to donate to the Mishkan. V'haya mo'es Moshe b'hem. Wow. Moshe did not want these mirrors. Mo'es Moshe b'hem. In Hebrew, in modern day Hebrew, that has a strong translation. Some of you are smiling if you know what the word means in modern day Hebrew. It's hard to say that about Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu doesn't want these mirrors. Because they were made for the work of the Yetzer Hara. What does a woman use a mirror for? To beautify herself. If you don't care you look, you never look in the mirror. It's true. If I never cared how I look, I would never look in the mirror at all. Why do I look in the mirror? Make sure I look nice. That's going into the Mishkan. Amar lo HaKadosh Baruch Hu kabel ki elu chavivin alai min hakol. And I love that line because what is the Ribbon Shalom referring to? Hashem said, take them. These are more dear to me than all. What is he referring to? Elu chavivin alai min hakol. Does that mean the mirrors, the maros, are more precious to me than all? Or does that mean the women are more dear to me than all? Sha'al yedeihem ha'amidu hanashim tzeva'os rabos v'mitzvah. You think these mirrors are mi'us? You think they're Yetzer Hara? The mirrors, and I'm adding an akuda that I never realized before. Why dafka a mirror? Forget who else looks in the mirror. I need to look in the mirror. And if other people see Malchus, if Achashverosh, lowly Achashverosh, could see that Esther was a queen, if Mordechai knew she could do it, then who is a Bas Yisrael to see otherwise? If Sarah could protect her child and step out of the tent, if Yocheved and Miriam could save the Jewish babies, Vatir ena hamiyados asa alokim, v'lo asu kasher diber le'im para melech Mitzrayim. If they could take tambourines, if Esther could go to the king, if Miriam Peretz can continue to inspire all over the world and find her courage and diffuse her light, and what shall we say? Look in the mirror, mirror, mirror on the wall. Who's the fairest of them all? Rav Tzadok HaKohen of Lublin says, Kashem sha'adam tzarich la'amin ba'Hashem, kein tzarich ha'adam la'amin ba'atzmo. Just like a man is obligated to believe in God, so too he must believe in himself. And in this season of Gula, which yes, begins now in Adar, Somchim Geula Legula, do not fool yourselves and do not forget and do not become complacent because it's in our merit that the Geula came. Let's continue in the Rashi. Tishahayu ba'aleihim yegeim. So again, this complements Masechta Sota, but it tells us a little bit of a different story. They both tell us two different things. We already saw the Gemara inside, the fish, the pots, the anointing. Fascinatingly, the babies being hidden in the ground, the Egyptians coming to plow over them. Achmana Litzlan, the Nazis would go into homes, they would break down walls, they would shoot into the mattresses. So in the times of Egypt, before guns, they took oxen and they plowed over the earth. It's the same thing. It's just a different tool. They're looking for the hidden Jews. So this also answers your questions, why Davka to the fields? Oh, that's why you're smiling? That's what you're going to say? Here's the answer to your question. They're in the fields. And the husbands are exhausted. Maybe the husbands aren't able to come home.
Or they would be too tired.
Or they didn't have the koach to come home.
They would be too tired when they came home to
the women would go and they would feed them and they would give them food and drink in the fields. And they would feed the husbands, those hamaros, and they would take those mirrors. Those mirrors that Moshe said are used for the purpose of the Yetzer Hara. The woman would take the mirror. Today when I say this, I say today, if you want to take a selfie with somebody, so you have to put your head very close. Otherwise you're not both going to get in the screen. Every time you see two people in a selfie, what are they doing? They're smushing their heads together. There's barely room for three. So they would take these mirrors. Every woman would look with her husband in the mirror to Today we would say she's flirtatious. She seduces him with words, her own husband. He's exhausted. Not tonight, and not tomorrow night, and not next month till we get out of here. But how do we get out of here if we don't have children? Knesset Yisrael will end. There will be no more. Lomar, what did she say, this brave Jewish woman? Ani na'amimcha, I'm more beautiful than you. Mitoch kach mevi'os le'ba'aleim lidei taiva. They would bring their husbands to a state of desire. V'niz kakos lahem. They would have relations. Umis abros v'yodom sham. They would conceive, and they would give birth there. Shenemar, we saw this pasuk quoted in the Gemara. Tachas atapuch araticha, under the apple tree I raised you. V'zeh shenemar b'marus hatzovus. That's what the pasuk means. You have the pasuk on the bottom of page 2, and the mirror was made, the very last pasuk on page 2, by the mirrors of the woman who congregated. Ayasa sakiyar nechoshes. Just turn back for 1 minute to the bottom of page 2. Ayasa sakiyar nechoshes. The kiyar was made from copper, the laver. V'askana nechoshes, and the base from copper. B'marus hatzavos asher tzavu pesach olmei. With the mirrors of the woman who congregated by the tent of meeting, going back to the Rashi, and that's what it means. B'marus hatzavos. V'naaseh hakiyar mehem. So you could go to the chatzer of the Mishkan, and you could say, that's my mirror.
They had 6 babies at once. That was the joke, right?
Sorry, I didn't know someone was talking. Go ahead.
6 babies at once they had.
That what?
They each would have 6 babies at a time, correct?
Shisha b'keres echad. So that's what the Medrash says somewhere else. Yes. Okay. So they were. Hashem, like we said, that goes back to Lamalam in Hateva. It wasn't b'darach Hateva. The angels the children and honey and wine and oil from a rock. V'nasa kiyar mehem shulasum shalom bet ish leishto, and the kiyar which is used to test the sota was made from these mirrors. V'teida, I skipped a few words of Rashi, where he talks about the sota. V'teida l'cha shehein marus mamash. Rashi, like Rav Shamshon Hirsch, not in that order, I should say Rav Shamshon Hirsch, like Rashi says, they were actual mirrors. You go and check your makeup and the mirrors of the kiyar and the chatzer. Shaharei Namar, okay. He proves how he knows it was actual mirrors. It was not nechosha, says Rashi, that was donated for the other malachas hamishkan. It was separate nechosha, separate copper, purely from the woman. So says Rabbi Tanchuma. Rabbi Onkelos explains the mirrors of the woman. And he's quoting. And sometimes in life, like Esther Hamanka, like the women in Egypt, we feel in a very difficult situation or a very difficult position. And we don't know if we have the koach to persevere. And the reality is that we need to look inside of our very own selves. And we need to find the koach within. And we need to realize how strong a Bas Yisrael is, and that the continuity of Knesset Yisrael depends on our strength, on our reserves, on our ability to not give up. Lo yichba b'layla neva. Laila represents a difficult time. Laila represents galus. Laila represents Hester Panim. Laila represents a lack of clarity. Miriam Parrott says in her book, after her son Eli Raz was killed, the second one, she says, I thought to myself, this is not normal. Is God's computer, she writes, stuck on the Parrott's family? Did I not already sacrifice, she says? Is it normal for one family to lose 2 sons in the IDF? And Miriam says, I realized that the question of why is getting me nowhere. So now I ask, says Miriam, what can I learn from my experience? What can I do with my pain? That's exactly what Esther Hamalka asked, and I already quoted from Kapitach of Beis of Tehillim, and people don't realize this is an insight of Shamshon Hirsch. Of Shamshon Hirsch in his beautiful commentary on Tehillim. And the pasuk says, Keili, Keili, lama tzech al hayel shal shachar mizmar leDavid. Keili, Keili, lama azavtani, the capital that Esther Hamalka said, Rachok mishu asi divrei shalasi. Of Hirsch says, don't read it, Lama Azavtani. God, why have you abandoned me? How should you read it? So many of you know the Vart. I don't know if you know the source. You can go look up Rav Shamshon Falhersh's commentary on Tehillim, the great German scholar and Talmud Chacham from the 1800s. Go look in his Tehillim, chapter 22, verse 2, and you will see it there. Do not read it, why have you abandoned me? Read it, for what purpose is my suffering? And Miriam says in the first few days after Eliezer was killed, she asked herself why. And she realized, quote, this question is getting me nowhere. So now I ask, what can I do? For what purpose? What can I learn? Lech Knossos Kol HaYudim HaNimtzim B'Shushan. I don't know why this is happening. But what can we do? What role can I play? How can I affect a more positive light in this world? And if it means taking tambourines out of Egypt, as irrational and absurd as it seems, nobody's at the edge of their seats in the Megillah because you know the end. But maybe she thinks she's walking toward death. Yet she dons royalty. It might be kasher avadati avadati. But I will go to the field with my pot of water, my pot of fish, and my anointment. And I'll put some Vaseline on his lips, and I will give him a few bites of sardine, and I will take my mirror and I will say, honey, who's more handsome? Even when I don't feel like it, because I know Knesset Yisrael depends upon it. The same courage in every narrative, in every generation, in every story. Okay. Let's look at the Ibn Ezra before we conclude. All right, we did almost every source here. Let's look at the Ibn Ezra before we conclude on page 3. The Ibn Ezra says with page 3, we did the Rashi already. V'tam hatzovos ki mishpa kol hanashim lehit yafot. The Ibn Ezra says the law of all women is to make themselves beautiful. Lehit yafot, yafah. Lir'ot pneim b'chol boker. Look at this. It wasn't so different in the Middle Ages. What did you do when you wake up in the morning? You look in a mirror. I can't make it up. So we advance. In ancient Egypt, they only had copper. As time goes on, what did we discover? Glass. Either way, bottom line, what do you do? Oh, the Roman period. Very nice. Oh, yes, there's Roman glass that's been excavated in Israel. Correct. Nechoshes is chuchis. Thank you. Litakein ha'pe'erim shalosh. They wore sa'pe'er v'kavanasim shlo. Pe'er means glory. They wore some kind of glory or splendor on top of their head. They would fix it up in the morning. You want to know how you look? V'hinei hayu b'Yisrael nashim ovdos Hashem. You have women who serve God. Shesaru mitayvos haolam. They remove themselves. This is post-Egypt, from the taivas of this world. V'nasnu maroseihin nidava. And what did it do when it came from Melachos HaMishkan? They gave these mirrors as a contribution. Ki ein lahem tzorech od lehit yafot. They understood that they do not have a need anymore to beautify themselves. Now, of course, we should always be beautiful. And of course, we should always go out looking presentable. But in the matzah, they had no use for the seduction of their husbands anymore in the way that they needed to in Egypt. That time period was over. They survived. Rak ba'os yom yom al Pesach o moed lehitpalel. Instead of having to draw water and cook fish and anoint, they came every day to the entrance of the tent of meeting to daven. V'shmo divrei hamitzvos. They came to the Mishkan, Vayikra, this week's parasha, last week's parasha, to hear words of Torah. V'zahu asher tzavu Pesach o amoid ki hayu rabos. There were many such women that came. V'lo hizkir kasuv midas hakiyar kasher hizkir midas hakirim shasa shlomo. This is very important. The Torah, in regard to the Kiyar and the Mishkan, does not tell you the measurements of the Mishkan, like it tells you the measurements in the base of Mikdash of the Kiyar that Shlomo built. Rak na'asa, I underlined it. Bechol hamarot shehiviu. What did the Ibn Ezra just say? Not one mirror was turned away. Not only, like Rashi and Rav Shamshon Falher say, could you visibly see the mirrors, but Moshe put out a call and he said, there's enough material, don't bring any more. When it came to the mirrors, every single mirror was accepted. Every woman should be able to go and look at her own reflection. And it was a little bit of an epiphany to me. It's not for other people to see. It's for you to see the courage and the beauty within your very own self. Every person, says Miriam, comes to the world with a mission. And we have rays and sparks of light. And our job is to diffuse those rays and to diffuse those sparks of light. Just like Esther, who was able to save the Jews. I want to end with a beautiful thought that I heard in the name of my daughter. Rabbi Ephraim Shapiro from Florida spoke in my daughter's school, and he told the girls this Dvar Torah. She is in 10th grade in TMM. And he was talking about the concept of Geula. He was speaking to a group of high school females. He was talking about the concept of the Geula, that every Geula is in the merit of a woman. And he told them something beautiful. It's in the merit of the Aim B'Yisrael, the mothers of Israel, Aleph Mem. Aim, Aleph Mem, the mothers. The first Geula are Moshe. That's the Geula of Nisan. Hein Ga'alti Eschem Acharis Karacious. That's the Rashis. The next Geula of Acharis, Esther and Mordechai. And the final Geula of Ezros Hashem, Eliyahu and Mashiach Tzidkenu. Just like we effected redemption in the season of Geula from Adar the Acharis to Nisan the Rashis, and we have explored it. I'll read the Achas Badenblatt. Yes, there are many more sources we could go through. But in the time that we have had, we explored well that it is the Aim Yisrael. Aaron, Moshe / Miriam, it's also men. Esther, Mordechai, Eliyahu, and Mashiach. But someone came over to me and mentioned to me that if we're talking about the courage and the strength and the amunah of the woman, She'utziu Tupim Mimitzrayim, Ani Ma'amin is also letters. Aleph and Mem. Amunah Shalema B'vias HaMashiach. Ba'afal Pisha Yismameh Im Kol Zeh Achakalo. B'chol Yom Shabbat. Because every day we wake up and every day you look in the mirror. Because we saw it inside. It's the custom, it's the law of the woman to wake up and fix the pe'er that's on top of their head. How could I be more beautiful today? But not externally beautiful. Yes, you could be. How can I tap into the internal beauty to be part of that journey of Aleph Mem, of the righteous women who affect Geula, Be'ezras Hashem, as we did in the past, halavai, halavai, advasai, we should be zocha, that the current mothers of Israel, like Miriam Peretz, Leah Golden, Sahava Shaul, should see Nechama, we should be zocha, b'nisan nigalu, u'v'nisan asidim ligal. Amen ve'amen. Thank you, ladies. B'soros tov v'sta'ah.
Wow, powerful share. I'll ask you to save your questions for coming up afterwards, after we break. That will be an easier venue.